Touchdown Tampa Bay, you're listening to the Pewtercast.
Welcome to the Pewtercast. I am Brent Allen, your host, joined once again, as always, by my good buddy, man I've not talked to in a long time and I've missed him, Ren Dax. Ren, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I am ready to discuss some Buccaneers. It's been 3 weeks.
It has. We have, we'd had a couple of shows planned and some technical stuff. We had a router go out on us and just some different things. And then I was out of the state for a long time. And it definitely, there's been some stuff that's happened, for an off season where nothing much is supposed to be happening. There's been a lot that's happened over the last couple of weeks, and there's still a lot more to dive into. So I'm glad to be back. We were talking just before the show started, and ready to talk Buccaneers. The Apollos are done. Showtime with the Apollos is done. We'll get to that later in the show. But man, feels good to be back talking Buccaneers football.
It does. And all those things that happened, like the owners' meetings and stuff, we're not going to talk about any of that. Because it's been talked about
ad nauseum.
Yeah. Which is it's funny because like I was itching to get back on the pod, but like the only show I really wanted to do was sort of break down Bruce Arians, breakfast with the coach at the NFL meetings. But after that,
that by the way, that was the show we were going to do when all of a sudden everything blew up on us and we couldn't. Like we were getting ready to do it and.
Yeah. Like your router went out, and then you got it back up, and then on one of the very few nights I had to go pick up Cheryl at her work, we had one playing later, and I ended up, one of her favorite couples was there, and we start talking, and we're like 5 minutes into the conversation. I shoot you a text. I'm like, I'm not gonna make it.
Right.
These are some of my favorite people. Hey, here's my boyfriend. Let's sit down and talk a while. And I couldn't just go, I got a podcast, so I gotta go. And then you took off to Arizona.
Yeah. So. Little halfway awkward family vacation out to Arizona, but we went out and saw the Grand Canyon, which was cool. And my son, about the second stop, he's like, "Great, Dad. Look, it's that same rock we just saw way over there, just from this side. Oh, beautiful. Good job, Dad." But I will say, I did get to stop by and see our friend Gene from Buck What You Heard.
Oh yeah,
and talk to him, snapped a picture with him, just for a very few minutes. WrestleMania was happening, so he was mostly distracted as well. But
sure.
It's okay. It just kind of had to force it into the schedule to make that happen. But Gene, if you're listening, buddy, it was really, really great to get out there. And it's just this weird thing, Ren. Like I remember meeting you for the first time face to face, probably about a year after we started doing this, maybe 6 months. I don't know. But it's really this weird, like, I'm meeting you for the first time, but you're an old friend.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And that's really what it was with Gene. He's a guy that we've had on our show quite a bit. He's had us on his, just a real good friend. So kind of part of the fun part of this whole Bucks podcasting community. But anyway, that's enough about our personal stuff. People are here to listen to Buccaneers, so why don't we get right into all the stuff with Buccaneers? As you mentioned, the stuff that's kind of past that everybody's already talked about, we're going to leave it there, and we're going to let that be, and we're just going to move forward. And what's in front of us right now, guys, as we sit and we record this, we're about 2 weeks out of the draft right now. And Ren, buddy, the last time that you and I talked, you had some very overt opinions about what's going on with the draft. And since you're way more into this draft than I am, I sort of do the other side. I wait to see who we get, and that's when I do the research on all these guys and go back and look at their game film. There's too many on the front end for me to do, and I just don't have any interest in that or time, really. I'll look at the guys that we get once we get them. But you were pretty hard up on taking an interior defensive lineman if that's where it fell.
Extremely hard up.
Yes, and not taking Devin White as a linebacker. You're not doing that. So, man, catch me up. Where are you with the draft these days? I think I saw something the other day that said that you had kind of softened on something a little bit, but I didn't really see what that was. So where are we with this whole draft thing?
Well, as far as the first pick goes at 5, and we're not talking about trades, it seems to be sort of a Buccaneers fandom, my version of the people that I see, on Twitter. It's Devin White, the linebacker of LSU, or Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle out of Houston. Right. Now, if, Josh Allen from Kentucky falls down, he's in the play. If, Bosa falls down, he's in play. Quentin Williams falls down, probably be the pick, and of course he's in the play. But
okay, real honestly though, those three guys you just mentioned, Bosa, Quentin Williams, Josh Allen, these guys kind of seem like the Quentin Nelson, Saquon Barkley, and whoever Bradley Chubb. Those guys from last year, like, if they fall, and it's possible they could, but if they fall, but they're probably not gonna. Isn't that kind of the same thing with those three this year? Like this Bosa, Quentin Williams, Josh Allen, like they could possibly fall. If they do, we should take one of them, but they might not. Isn't that kind of the same situation?
It's the exact same situation, and I would change the word might as into they're not going to.
Fair enough.
It's just you just look at it, and this defensive, line draft is just so good and so deep. They're just kind of no-brainers. Now, I don't care what order they go in, and of course, the only thing that can really happen is that someone else trades up to try to get a quarterback besides number 1 at Kyler Murray, which seems to be a foregone conclusion with everybody to the Cardinals. So, okay,
let me ask you this before you get too far into it, because you just mentioned we're not going to talk about or we're going to assume that the Bucs don't trade down. However, I want to say it was the Pewter Report guys were discussing on one of their most recent podcasts to not be surprised at the possibility of Jason Light actually moving up to get one of those. So real briefly, do you think that that's anywhere near the realm of possibility that we really could see a trade up? Because I've always been saying we're going to trade down. I've said since day one we're not picking at 5. But, what do you think?
No. Is that brief enough?
Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the, Pewter Report, which I've said many times on Twitter, like as far as draft coverage from guys in the building, beat reporters, they're undisputed the site to follow about Buccaneers draft.
I would agree.
And they put out 4 mocks before draft time. They just put out their second one because you have to give something different. You can't just sort of put the same, 7 players, have a pool of like 10 players and mock 1, here's 7 of them. Mock 2, here's a different 2, but still 5 more. So you have to start thinking about different scenarios and if the Bucs, trade up, this is what might happen. And this could be a scenario that if they're going to, this is how it will look.
Right.
And they did that with their second mock draft. And, it was like, okay, all right. Fun exercise. It's not going to happen.
Right. And because here's the thought that I was having. And, as you said, those guys, they're in the building. They have the inside beat way more than any of us do. But, I think when we look at Jason Light's history of trading, he does certainly have a history of trading both up and down. But usually when he trades up, he's trading extra draft capital that he has acquired through a trade down previously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily see him trading away draft capital because we don't have a bunch of extra picks. We're not walking into this draft with 10 picks.
Yeah.
We have 7.
And we're sitting at 5.
Right.
And once again, this defensive line is so deep. And if you want to go defensive line, like Ed Oliver's top 5 talent. He's going to fall to you. As long as Kyler Murray goes 1, it's going to be Ed Oliver. Like 98 times out of 100. Like he's going to be there. And then if not, then one of the other 3 are there. Right. And then if Kyler Murray doesn't go, well, guess what? Then you got the edge guys that are there, such as Sweat from Mississippi State or Brian Burns from Florida State. But then you have the other side of the coin, which is Devin White, the linebacker from LSU. And it seems to be this, and no one's like really mean about it, at least, through my Twitter feed. Some people think Devin White's a good pick, and some people think that that you just shouldn't take a linebacker that high.
Sure.
Not that he's not a good player, not that and it's not that it's a need, because it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a 3-4 base defense, and we can talk about all day, oh, they're not going to look like a 3-4, they're going to look like a 4-3 on this, and then there's going to be sub packages, and they got the money backer, and then they're, whatever. There's going to be 2 inside linebackers on the field every single time, except when they play dime.
Fair enough.
Okay. Or they could take one off for nickel, but anyway, there's going to be 2 inside linebackers on there. Now, one's Levante David. We're all set. No problem. Okay. The other one is Kevin Minter. Mm-hmm. And why Devin White makes such a great pick for the Buccaneers is because, one, Kevin Minter, nice player, was an ex-Cardinal. Mm-hmm. But what scares me is he went to the Jets last year in training camp to his former defensive coordinator, who was the head coach of the Jets,
right,
to be able to play that middle linebacker position for the Jets, and he got cut.
Right.
That's how we picked him up. So if you look at it that way, he's the 5th best interior linebacker on a team that's picking 3rd. Like, they're ahead of us.
Okay.
Like, that's how bad they were. And he couldn't make that team, going to a team that he knew the system, knew the coach. Probably was the only reason he went there was because of the coach, and he knew the system, and he still couldn't make the team. Mm-hmm. Now he's our starter.
Currently.
Couldn't make the team with the Jets.
Currently,
In the same guy's defense,
mm-hmm.
is now our interior starter. So that's where you get a player like Devin White, who could possibly, in not extremely long passing downs, could stay on the field in coverage. Be able to pick up tight ends, backs out of the backfield. He has that much speed, that much range, where you don't necessarily have to go nickel at 3rd and 6.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where he comes into play. But I guess the basic way I say it, and, so a question for you, would you rather have 2 really good Pro Bowl caliber interior defensive linemen, or would you rather have 2 Pro Bowl caliber interior linebackers?
Anybody who's listened to the show long enough knows that I'll always default to being a trenches guy, so I'll take the guys in the trenches over those linebackers.
And I think everybody would.
Sure.
It
starts up front.
Now, it's a need at linebacker, but what people don't seem to understand, at least I think that the Devin White train is, one, I've talked to people who do this for a living. Like, they get paid to rate players. They're draft pundits.
Right.
Draft nicks, if you will. Like, some of them don't even have Devin White as their number 1 linebacker. Mm-hmm. They have Devin Bush from Michigan as their number 1. Mm-hmm. And these guys are sort of viewed as like 1 and 1A, depending on, they're extremely
I've heard
close.
that. Yeah, I've certainly heard that about those 2.
So if Devin White's not the number 1 linebacker in this class at 5, and if you throw him into last year's class, I forgot the guy's name. Darn it. Anyway, there was a linebacker that went high last year, like 8 or 9, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And if you put him in this class, or take the Devins and throw him into that class, now Devin White's the 3rd best linebacker in the past 2 years. So if he's the 3rd best linebacker in the past 2 years, then he's not going to be Patrick Willis. He's not going to be Ray Lewis. He's not going to be Luke Kuechly.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about Roquan Smith?
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah. So, and then you take the defensive side of the ball and you look at it, we got Gerald McCoy. Do we? Maybe. I don't know. Probably not.
That's a question. Do we have Gerald McCoy? No. I think it depends. And I think this will be I don't want to say my final word on Gerald, but I think this is where I'm going to stick with it. Maybe I said this on our last pod. They're not doing anything with Gerald until they have his replacement, or until they're absolutely forced to. And they have neither of those 2 things right now. They're not forced to get rid of him or clear the cap space today.
Right.
They don't have to do it today. They don't have a guy to replace him today.
Right.
If we get into the draft and they draft Quinnen Williams or Ed Oliver or one of these guys that could replace him, you might see. You remember a couple years ago when they drafted the kicker, 19.
Roberto Oquile.
Yeah, that guy, Roberto Oquile. Thank you. Like the very next day, they released Connor Barth, who was our kicker at that point. You know, they said, "Hey, Connor, we're releasing you right now to let you go." I think we could see a similar situation like that with Gerald. That if they draft his replacement, then we'll see him go. If they don't draft his replacement, until they have to have certain signings and ink to pen and paper, and they absolutely have to have him gone, unless they trade him, I just don't. I don't see them releasing him until they really have to.
Yeah, I think he's a draft commodity.
Sure.
Like they're using him as a piece of the puzzle in their draft.
Sure.
Like if they want to, people are saying, well, you can go from the top of the second to the bottom of the first by trading Gerald McCoy. Okay, who's going to do that? I don't think a lot. But you could go from the top of the fourth to the bottom of the third. But you have to find a team to take his $13 million salary. I don't think Gerald McCoy is going to be with the Buccaneers come training camp, come hell or high water.
I agree with you on that. For a lot of reasons, but mostly because when you look at the salary cap situation they're in, the easiest and best way to clear and get exactly what they need is to get rid of this one player. And that happens to be Gerald McCoy. And like it solves so many problems. As long as they have somebody that can replace him, it solves all their problems to let him go and get rid of that salary off the books.
Right.
I
So
just
you
don't
need to
see a way
replace him.
that they can keep him, regardless of how people feel about him. I just don't know.
They could get rid of JPP. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah, I get it. But, I mean, there's a way to keep him.
Right.
It's not. Yeah. But, okay, so you have to, like you said, you have to replace Gerald McCoy, right?
Right.
Okay, well, you got Ed Oliver. Like, him and Villa next to each other would be awesome. Plus, if you look at the depth of the defensive line, the interior defensive line, Bo Allen just got his pay cut so he could become a free agent.
Right.
So, odds are he's not a Buccaneer next year.
Right.
All right, so who else we got in there? Oh, we got Nacho. That's it.
You mean the guy that was deactivated for 7 out of his 8 weeks on the team last year?
Yeah. What's that many?
I'm pulling
he was
that number out of the air,
deactivated
but
more
it was
than he
a
was
lot.
activated.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason he was activated is because for injury, and as soon as people got healthy, he was deactivated.
Right.
They just picked up some guy, I don't even remember his name, from the Texans. Like they just did it this week. This camp body,
Right.
and Will Golston, and that's it. So if you look forward to next year, you've got, let's say they don't go Ed Oliver. You look forward to next year, you got Vita Vea, Nacho, if you have to re-sign him.
Right.
Bo Allen's probably gone. Gerald McCoy, if he's not gone this year, will definitely be gone next year. And Will Golston.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a no-brainer. Like putting two potential Pro Bowlers right next to each other in this 3-4 defense it just makes so sense. Like if this draft is so deep along the defensive line, why not go get one of the best? Why settle for a guy in the third or the fourth? Okay. Well, this fourth rounder, but he's really a second rounder. Okay, well, why not get one of these guys that are like the generational players? There just happens to be a lot of them up top together.
Right.
Go get him. It's a need. I am prepared just to roll with Kevin Minter as our starting, one of our starting inside linebackers, and just go with it.
Well, but don't forget, and I don't know where these guys all fit and where each one, but we also have this Dayon Buchanan guy. We also have Shaquille Barrett, who the more I keep hearing about out of this Barrett guy, the more I'm liking about it.
Yeah, but he's an outside edge rusher.
Is he? Okay, so he's not one of our interior guys then.
No,
okay.
Our interior guys are David, Minter, Riley Bulla, and Jack Sitchie. Dayon Buchanan is a guy who can come in the nickel in a sub package, and he's big enough to sort of set the edge, hold up against the run. But he also has the coverage skills to be able to cover tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. That's the money
backer spot, yeah.
That's the money backer spot. So Kevin Minter's not going to play on passing downs. So he's only going to play 30% of the time anyway.
Right.
So then just roll with him
Right.
and load up and stack, and just load up on the defensive line again. And so that's my argument for Ed Oliver, because I get the White pick. He's a very good linebacker. He'd be a perfect fit for the system, but let's just wait till next year. Hopefully we're drafting somewhere in the mid-20s.
Yeah.
And
30s.
I've said this on the
30s.
pod. Yeah. We're drafting 33rd. We won the Super Bowl by so many points. They docked us. They docked us a spot. So
the losing team got a comp pick at 32.
No. Let's not do that.
For the record, I know how comp picks work, and that's not how they work, okay? I don't want any emails, all right?
Start adding you. So I've said this on this pod many times. You can find linebackers anywhere.
You have.
And you know what? You know where we found Kevin Minter, our starting linebacker, right now? Walking around the street.
On the street, yeah. Right.
After the season started.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be starting for us. So it's just such a no-brainer to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
if you weigh everything out and you look towards the future.
Just a little side note that not necessarily connected to this conversation. Something I'm interested to see happens with this coaching staff. Watching the what's that show on Prime? All or Nothing.
Yeah,
the one with Arians. One of the things that they really highlighted in that show was the free agents that they brought in off the street once the season had started. Kind of that process a little bit. Now, I don't know how much of that was Bruce Arians and how much of that was Steve Keim, their general manager out there, but I'm slightly interested to see which guys they may wind up bringing in as the season gets going. Kind of like we did Kevin Minter last year. Sorry, just a little side note, because you mentioned that. I'm slightly interested. I don't know if it's going to do anything or not, but anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll all be watching that. Plus, if you can find a Kevin Minter replacement, not necessarily a Devin White 3-down linebacker, but you can find an interior defensive linebacker replacement, and in the 4th, the 5th, the 6th round, you just need a guy that can tackle, like a big guy, plays downhill and can tackle.
And we have that in Levante David already, right?
Well, Levante David is a little more athletic, but this would be like a true sort of like Mike linebacker, sort of like more in the mold of Kendall Beckwith. Now, Kendall Beckwith does have some coverage skills, but I'm talking a guy that just like if you run the ball between the tackles, he's going to be there and stop you. But he's not really good in coverage like Kevin Minter. He can move a little bit, but really he's best at is stopping you before you get 4 yards.
Right.
And you could find those.
Right. And I guess where I was kind of going with that, I think when you look at most teams, you look at their linebacking situation. For most teams, you have the one star linebacker, and then you have a couple of B player fill-in guys around him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, our star linebacker right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is Levante David. I think we've gotten used to this idea of there's Levante, and then there's Quan, and then there's Kendall Beckwith. And, okay, well, Kendall's out, but we got a Darius Taylor who is not as good, but good enough. We've gotten used to having this multiple linebacker attack. So part of where I'm kind of looking at the roster is going, we've got Levante in that spot. Do we have to have that other star caliber person this year? Eventually we're going to have to replace Levante David, right? But is this the year that has to happen? Because I'm with you. I am, like I said, I'm more of a trenches guy, so I certainly would love to look at that. That's where I'm going. Okay, let me ask you this, and we'll, I guess, wrap this up. You've been making your case for drafting an interior defensive lineman, and it's probably going to be Ed Oliver. Assuming that the other guys are gone, is Ed Oliver that he's that next best guy? Is there another player besides Ed Oliver that we may pass on Ed Oliver and go with this guy instead, assuming that Quinnen Williams and Josh Allen are both gone?
Well, there's a couple of guys, and they both play for Clemson. Scott Reynolds mentioned him, when we had him on our last pod, which was 3 weeks ago, which I feel like it has been, because I feel like I'm struggling just even having a conversation. Like, and I keep
out of the podcasting mode, huh?
Yeah, and I keep just like looking up, like, where am I going with this? Scott Reynolds said the Bucks aren't high on Ed Oliver, so that really hurts my feelings a lot,
because you've been making a case.
Yeah, so he threw out a name there, Farrell or Farrell from Clemson would be the next guy.
Okay.
Now, does he test like Ed Oliver? Does he move like Ed Oliver? Does he have a quick first step like Ed Oliver? Can he shoot the gap? No, he can't. But still, in any other draft year, this guy is probably a borderline top 10 pick. Okay. Depending on who's around, he might be the, I don't know, second or third interior defensive lineman. And he might be this year, to be honest. It's just there's so many edge guys that are in front of him. But here's the reason why I want the Bucs to go interior defensive line, because of the way the draft sets up. Of all the mocks that I've done, it really puts a kink in the players you'll be able to get at the defensive line later on down the road if you take a linebacker at 5. Okay. So you take White at 5. So now you've missed out on everyone else I've named. Sweat, Burns, Farrell, Lawrence, there's the other Clemson guy, and a bunch of other guys. And now we're in the top of round 2. Now you have to decide interior defensive line or edge. Well, the edge guys, even though they're very good, they're at the top. When you come down to the second round, we're starting getting into the second tier guys, but it's not that deep. So you almost force yourself to take an edge guy in round 2. And then by the third round, the interior defensive lineman that you get compared to Ed Oliver, it's a joke.
Okay.
It's like we're taking guys that you hope pan out to be sort of like this. Oh, this draft is so deep. Maybe this guy will be really, really good. But they're probably going to be closer to something like Clinton McDonald.
Who wasn't a slouch.
No,
but he wasn't a star either.
He's a starter.
Yeah.
Played well.
Yep.
Did his position. But he's not Ed Oliver. Right. He's not Joey Bosa. He's not these.
He's not a game changer.
Yeah, he's not Quentin Williams.
Yeah.
So if you go Ed Oliver or an interior defensive lineman, at 5, then there's some nice edge players that are falling. Chase Winovich out of Michigan, I like. Polite out of Florida because of his attitude and his poor combine, but he's a first-round talent on tape. Like he's falling to the second. But then you can also take your guard there because the Lindstroms are falling at guard. You get your 10 plug-and-play player in the second round. If you go linebacker first round, the second round, you can't take a guard because you got to take an interior defensive lineman or an edge. You don't have to, but that'd be the smart play. That's where the value is. So now you're in the third round, and you go, okay, did I take a defensive lineman in the second one or interior in the second round? Well, now I got to go edge in the third. Now we're not addressing guard till the fourth.
Right. So
you can go interior defensive line, guard or edge in the second, whatever other one in the third, which are great guys in the third as far as guards. There's Evans out of Oklahoma. There's Dieter out of Wisconsin.
Okay, let me ask about these guys.
Sure.
These guards. Because here's the deal. Last year, in the third round already, we drafted an offensive lineman. He was a smallish left tackle that he played in college, which would seem to me that he would move over fairly well to a guard. Like that transition, just because of his size, moving from one to the other, would seem fairly natural. I think that might be even what they intended for him to be. But we just invested a third-round pick. In fact, we invested a third-round pick and I believe a fourth-round pick because we traded up to get him in that boy whose name is slipping my mind right now, Alex Kappa.
Yeah,
so are we right? I know that it's so hard to say, looking at Alex Kappa's body of work from last year and crowning him the starting guard right now.
Yeah.
That's really hard. I get that. But on the other hand, I'm also sitting here saying, we just invested a third-round pick in a guard. If we get another Ali Marpet kind of guy, that kind of guy who could potentially be here for the next 10 years, sure.
Yeah. Second round.
We're now talking about, to where you're kind of pushing it down, we're now back towards that third, fourth round kind of guy again. Are we going to get a guy who's any better than Alex Kappa?
If you take a linebacker at 5, that's a definite possibility. If you take an interior defensive lineman at 5, the draft just lines up so much better.
All right, take that. Let's rephrase that. If you take a linebacker at 5, i.e. Devin White,
right?
What you're saying is,
by the second round, you need to cash in on the defensive line.
Right.
It's a great draft.
So we're now talking about the third or fourth round before we pick a guard. However, if we go defensive line in the first round,
right,
i.e. Ed Oliver or someone of that nature, then we're really looking at a second round. We can pick up an offensive lineman.
We can pick up one of the best interior offensive linemen that you can plug and play at guard for like 10 years.
That is going to, and Alex Kappa moves into maybe a future.
Who cares what Alex Kappa does?
Right. Who knows?
He makes the team. Somebody gets injured, he fills in.
There you go.
He's your third guard.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So that's
Hello, Joe Holly.
Kind of like the extended view for me of why, like,
hey, by the way, I'm sorry.
Pick.
By the way, we drafted an offensive lineman. That is when I think we'll say goodbye to Evan Smith, because I think Evan Smith is in a similar spot to Gerald McCoy. Like, we don't have his replacement yet. He's $2 million on the books. Evan Smith should be done, right? Do we want to see Evan Smith stay on this team yet another year? Not really playing. I don't. Like, I'm ready to move on. Are you? I mean, nothing against the guy. It just...
I thought, when I watched him in training camp, what I liked most about Evan Smith was that he was a coach on the field.
Sure.
Now, he didn't have his best year, but apparently as soon as, he got hurt, he replaced both his hips. So, obviously, he was hurt. He wasn't his healthiest. And also, he could play both guard spots and center. So, he's a valuable piece.
If he can still play.
Oh, he's healthy. He's on the team. I hear what you're saying, but that'll wash out in training camp. Sure. Now, if they draft, we'll say Lindstrom, and we got Kappa and Jensen, and then Allie becomes, I guess, our backup center, and you say goodbye to Evan Smith because he just kind of gets pushed out the door, okay, fine.
That's what I'm saying. If we draft that offensive lineman, we get his replacement, that's when I think we see Evan Smith going by as well. If we don't, for whatever reason, we don't draft another offensive lineman, or we don't get one that's of quality who can be plug and play, we might see Evan Smith. And the reason I bring that up is just cap crunch. He's one of those names that keeps getting tossed out there as people that we can get rid of to, that $2 million, seems like that I don't know that we currently have $2 million in cap space. So,
I don't think so.
We more than double it. It's just saying that $2 million doesn't seem like much, but it is in the grand scheme of things right now for us. So anyway.
So here's how I think the draft plays out for the Bucs. At least I would like it to play out for the Bucs. Defensive lineman, hopefully Ed Oliver at 5. Mm-hmm. Second round, guard. Okay? Unless all the good ones are gone, then you can go edge.
Okay.
Third round, guard, unless you took one of the second. Then you go edge.
Okay.
Fourth round.
So what you're saying is second and third round should be guard and edge, flip-flop, depending on which one you take first.
Right.
Okay.
Fourth round, I'm going back to the interior defensive line because it's the deepest position in the draft. And there's guys that are in the fourth round that you might have late second round grades on. One of the guys I like, Tristan Hill at UCF.
Okay. But these are also the same guys that you were just saying a minute ago are
not Ed Oliver.
Right. Yeah. You said they're a far cry, but picking them up in the fourth round is an appropriate place.
And guess what? Somebody has to play on the other side of Villa.
All right.
He's playing nose. You got Elvar on one side. You can put JPP, stand him up, sit him down. You got Will Golston.
Now wait, do you really want to go? Vita Vea is coming into a sophomore season, and you're going to put a rookie, and let's assume it's Ed Oliver on one side, and you're going to try to put a fourth round rookie on the other side.
Not start. but he's in there in the defensive line rotation.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I guess currently it's really Bo Allen over there right now, right? Or Will Golston, one of those two,
or JPP. If they could put his hand in the dirt,
they
put him over guard and put Shaq Barrett or Noah Spence on the outside of him.
Okay, fair enough.
Same thing with
I forget about JPP being in that realm right now.
Yeah, they're going to move him down and put him up. But it's playing to the strength of the draft for me. And then in the 5th round, that's when some of these project tackles are small school tackles. Like, oh my God, you got the build, you've got everything. It's just you went to like Akron and you've got no coaching and you've played football for like 2 years. There's some of these, where you can go and find, your next, just to equate it for Buck fans, your next Leonard Wester. I understand he was an undrafted free agent, but there's some guys that really have talent that you can double up the offensive line. So that leaves, the 6th and 7th round. And that's where you go and find the money backer, this new position that I think that you can find guys really on the cheap now that is going to become the trend going forward. Those big safeties, small linebackers can run in space, can cover the tight end, can cover the running back out of the backfield, you can call it third safety, money backer, whatever you want to call it. There's a bunch of those guys in the 6th and 7th round. And there's a few, not a lot, but there's a few nickel corners you can get late that are just like, they're just nickel. They'll never be able to play outside, but we need one. We need like a nickel coverage corner guy there. Or there's one or two for me, like outside guys that can play both that I think are vastly underrated.
Because Bruce Arians has said he wants to keep Vernon Hargreaves in the outside and said, damn it, we'll just find a slot corner. We'll keep him on the outside. We'll keep Carlton Davis on the outside, and we'll just find a new slot corner. You don't need to play this back and forth BS game like they were trying to do with him last year. Which I'm for. Apparently, and we'll maybe get to this later on a different show, but Vernon Hargreaves was very happy to hear that.
Yeah, and and he should be. So for taking the coach at his word, and then again, I know I feel like I'm harping on the same things. If you take a linebacker at 5, it just puts everything else out of whack for your positions of need. Like, I know Devin Bush can play all 3 downs in this defense. Kevin Minter cannot. That's why you got Buchanan, and that's why you can find another Buchanan type, a coverage linebacker or a big coverage safety late in the draft to at least hold over this defense until when you're picking, 20, 21, 23, 25 next year, and you can get, because this linebacker class is terrible. And that's sort of the thing this year. It's like, yeah, these guys are the best for sure, but there's no one else behind them because there's no other complete linebacker. Now we feel like we got to get
these guys up front.
Yeah, and you know what? There's gonna be more. There's gonna be another guy next year. There just is. There's every year. There's a guy. So,
yeah, but I mean, Ren, as you often say, linebackers are so hard to find.
All right. They are. Can't find them anywhere.
So that's Rendex's draft plan. And to be clear, this is what you think the Bucs should do.
Should do. Not
necessarily what you think they will do.
No, they're drafting Devin White.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm very sad about it.
So do we have to hear this on the other side as well? Are you going to be the draft cook or the Dalvin Cook and the who's that guy from last year, Derwin James? Guys who are 2 months after the draft, you're going to be, I told you we should have taken that guy.
No. Once, if they he's going to be a good player for the defense. Don't get me wrong. It just you look into the future about the defensive line, and if you look at the draft and play it out, it's just, and his position he plays, it's just not the right pick for me. Now, if they trade down, whatever, if they get some kind of package they like, they trade down, sure. Like Bush will be there, White will be there, Burns will be there, Sweat will be there. Like, these guys are going to be there. Ed Oliver is not going to be there. Like, I listen to this podcast that has on sort of like local experts, and they're going through the draft. They're like, all right, hey, Arizona Cardinals, you're the beat writer. Who do you pick? hey, who's second round? Who's second? Hey, San Francisco 49ers. You write for the San Francisco Chronicle. Who do you pick? They got down to us. They had Carmen on. She picked Ed Oliver. You know what the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th writer or whoever they were came on said? Man, I wish Ed Oliver was here. Man, I was really hoping Ed Oliver was here.
Right.
Oh, one guy actually got mad because he thought it was such a dumb pick because he didn't get him. Like, well, the Bucs aren't taking Ed Oliver, and now my pick's ruined. Like, he was actually upset.
Go Carmen.
Yeah, but
Carmen.
it's just when you take all the factors instead of just taking this vacuum, like which one's the best player, like who's the best fit right now, what's the biggest need, right? When you take everything else, the way the draft breaks down, defensive line in the future, the linebackers in the future, positional need, like for me, the scales just tipped at Oliver.
There you go. All right, one last question for the draft, and then we've actually got a couple of other things to kick in tonight's episode. Let's play the what-if game. If the Bucs trade down, and let's say they trade, and if they trade down, I don't think they're going to go very far. I don't know that they're going to get out of the top 10 in a trade down situation. So let's say they drop to 7, 8-ish, in and around there. Okay. Who becomes the pick in that situation? They get whatever deal. They drop down a couple of spots, 2, 3, 4 spots. Who are we looking at then? Is it still
Everybody.
Devin White? Is Devin White still the guy in
Everybody.
play?
Devin White's in play. Devin Bush is in play. Brian Burns is in play. Like a cornerback might come into play.
All right.
An offensive tackle might come into play. Like some of the top guys, but everybody comes into play when the Bucs trade down.
Okay.
Everybody.
Okay.
Because these guys that they have on their board all of a sudden start to become better value as they drop down the board. And they're all positions of need. We need an edge guy. I'm not sold on the cornerback we need play or safety. I see people keep trying to talk about getting cornerbacks early or safeties early. Like Vernon Hargreaves is a first round pick. Carlton Davis,
a lot of draft capital, recent draft capital.
A lot of very young draft capital at corner, at safety. And now it's time for these guys. Like, okay, as coaches, show us. Why are we picking another rookie to come in?
Exactly.
Like, why do you need to unseat one of these guys? It's put up or shut up for the entire defensive back.
Exactly. And that's something I think to remember, guys. Like, I think we still don't fully know just how crappy Mike Smith's defense was. Like, we saw it. I don't think we really fully get the impact of what it was on those players, even now. And, think about it. Vernon Hargreaves has only ever played under Mike Smith. Justin Evans only ever played under Mike Smith, except for those couple of games with Mark Duffner last year.
Whitehead.
The four guys we drafted last year, Stewart, Whitehead, Carlton Davis III. Like, all of these guys have only ever played under Mike Smith. It's almost unfair to judge their careers at all up to this point. Now we have to, because we can only judge based on what we've seen, right? But it's almost a little bit unfair. And I'm not saying that Todd Bowles and his staff is going to come in here and all of a sudden make a piece of crap smell like a rose. You know what I mean?
But we don't even know if they're pieces of crap.
Exactly. And I remember you talking about like we don't even know where they're grading these guys just yet. Yeah. We just don't. And so that's why so much of this team is so much of a mystery to me. Like, I feel like I don't really know this team, at least on the defense, like I thought I did.
Well, I think that
does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, but this will help you, or at least the listeners. I think we're going to find out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like we had these guys in. You kind of look at what they were in college, the way that the Bucs office and the coaches talk about them, and then they came out in Mike Smith's defense, and you didn't see any of it. Right. And you're like, I thought they were supposed to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and they can't. Right. Or they're not allowed. Or I think we're going to find out real quick if it was the coaches or the players on defense. Because
there's still questions I have, like, what the hell happened to Noah Spence? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What the? I mean, oh my gosh! And just anyway, so Okay, so that's the draft according to Ren. Now, Ren, we've got a pretty fun plan for the draft this year.
We do?
Which happens in just a couple of weeks. Basically, we're going to split up this year. Last year we were together. Last couple of years, actually, we've been together. But this year we're going to split up. And you're going to be at the Bucks Uncensored Draft Party.
Correct.
There at B-Dubs in, is it Clearwater?
No. Where it was last year on Dale Mabry.
Okay.
Just north of the stadium.
Close to the stadium. Okay. I'm actually going to be just down the road from you. I'll be actually at the stadium in the official draft party. We've got some friends of ours that are going to be heading out to some of the different places around, really around the nation. And we're going to be just trying to capture the atmosphere and the live feel of what it is at a Bucks draft party across the country. So it should be a very fun episode. It's going to be very hectic. I'm sure trying to put that together into any kind of cohesive piece for people to listen to. But I think it's going to be a fun, I think it's going to be a fun deal. And then of course we'll certainly have our post-draft shows and things like that. So it's an exciting time. I'm ready just to find out who the damn pick is, like all of them. Like it's let's get there. And I see so many people out there in social media world are just, okay, I'm tired of talking about all this. Let's get to it. So, all right, Ren, with that, you got anything else on the draft before we switch off this topic?
Ed Oliver or bust.
There you go. All right. Now, for those of you guys who have been following us here at the Pewtercast, you may know that this summer, or spring, actually, I guess, we had another little show going on called Showtime with the Apollos.
We did.
And it was a fun little run that we had there, Ren, covering the Alliance of American Football's Orlando-based team, the Apollos. We spent a lot of time coming up with the name of the show and the intro music, and we had a new logo and all this kind of stuff, and the Apollos were rocking and rolling. We had full media credentials throughout the season to the games that we were able to attend, and we were going to go to the championship, baby, and now we're not.
Yeah.
And that show's done.
One-hit wonders. Fun while it lasted.
Yeah, there you go.
We call that a summer romance in the movie biz.
Exactly. So, I don't know that there's really a ton to say about this whole thing, but it was a fun little show. I will say this about the AAF. I'll let you go first, Ren. The AAF closes. They shut down their doors. Tom Dundon comes in and basically says, all right, NFL, send us your players or we're going to stop playing. And the NFL goes, we have a CBA, we can't. And he goes, well, then promise me you're going to do it in the next CBA. And we haven't negotiated it yet. We can't. And he says, okay, fine, I'm shutting it down. And so he shuts it down. You
just quoted my tweet.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, verbatim. Here's
Really?
What I think would happen. And then, you threw it to me, then took my tweet.
I was trying to preface it. That's what happened.
Is it what happened?
Yes.
We don't know that for sure.
It was pretty public that's what happened.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly public knowledge. I mean, if you read, what's that guy's name? Dundon?
Tom Dundon. Yeah.
Tom Dundon. He owns, a little quick backstory. He owns the Carolina Hurricanes, the NHL hockey team. Mm-hmm. How the story goes, after week one of the Alliance season, they had trouble paying bills, paying players' salaries. Now, what I hear is that the guy who said, had promised, the funds and was in and was, part ownership and all that kind of stuff, when it was time, when push came to shove, okay, we need the money now, he didn't have it. So they went out and found Dundon, put in $250 million, and they were going to be solvent for the next 2 years, right?
No, it was supposed to be they were supposed to be solvent for the first 3 before Dundon even got there.
Right, and when they came to ask for the money, the guy didn't have it.
Right, but Dundon's investment was because it was $250 million over 3 years, I think, and that was that combined with their TV deals that they had was supposed to get them actually through 5 years. It provided Dundon put in all of that money.
Right. So it's not a money issue.
Right.
So now Dundon, who now owns 51% of the Alliance.
Right. He basically bought the Alliance is what he did.
Yeah. Yeah, now he's calling the shots. And as we have said many times that, it's a developmental league. And basically it's a free developmental league for the NFL where they can try out rules, and offensive linemen can get better and you can quarterbacks can get better. But for it really to work, you need sort of your bottom roster guys and your practice squad guys, the NFL, to be able to play during the spring,
right?
To actually develop them. And instead of showing the NFL that, the league can exist and make money on its own, Dundon decided to jump up the timeline and go to the NFL through a series of, I'm sure he had phone calls and stuff, but through a series of tweets, it's like, hey, if you don't, like you said, if you don't sort of give us these practice squad players, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know how we can survive.
Right.
But it's sort of public knowledge, like you said, 3 to 5 years, they have enough money to survive.
Right.
And then everything else is speculation. You just kind of follow the conversation. Well, we have a CBA. You can't do that. That is true. Did, the NFL say that? Probably. Did Dundon say, okay, well, then promise us some stuff? Maybe, maybe not. That's what I would have done. And then the NFL, for him to take that next step, the NFL would have to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he's like, okay, well, then you don't get your free league, which is kind of a dumb move because the XFL is coming around next year.
Right.
Well, now you don't get your free developmental league. Now you're going to have to deal with Vince McMahon as your, good luck working with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what happened. Maybe you can sort of.
Well, here's the other side to all that, Ren.
Sure.
One of the things that the AAF developed was this new app that allowed real-time betting.
Right.
And it had metrics in the footballs and on the players, and you could bet like what the next play was going to be live in game.
Yeah, this was supposed to be the moneymaker for the league.
It really was, and turns out
terrible.
but whatever it is, because Dundon's 51%, he owns that app. He owns that technology, and lo and behold, guess what happens? Like less than just a couple of days after they announced the folding of the AAF. They talk about how hockey, remember that other team he owns, that other thing he owns, how hockey is now going to implement some of this same real-time thing. So there's all this fishiness going around about it. Whatever
so basically, he paid $250 million for the technology.
Well,
of the
70. App. In the end, he only put in 70. He didn't put in 250. He put in 70.
Every spring football league needs a Donald Trump.
There you go. So, but
you're aware that Donald Trump came into the USFL and it was doing fine, and he screwed it. He screwed it over. Right?
I don't know that history, but I do know that he has often been trying to get a professional football team.
No, that's why I said that. Like the USFL would have been fine. Donald Trump came in and started trying to take on the NFL, and the NFL just sort of beat him to death, and they sued him, and they won the lawsuit.
Right.
But they only got it. But the jury only gave him $1. Like that's fact.
Fair enough.
That's history. You're right. The NFL is being mean or whatever. Or collusion seems to be a popular word, or
right.
Carpet bagging or monopolizing. You're right. Here's your damages, $1, and it basically bankrupted the league. And now we got our newer version of a old DT.
Wow.
In this what'd you call them? Dresden Files.
Dundon.
There you go. Dundon.
Tom Dundon. Yeah. DT and TD. So, look, here's the deal. The AAF is done. Now, Ebersol and Bill Polian possibly could potentially revive it, but it's not going to be the Alliance. It's going to be a new thing under a new deal, and they're probably not. Like, they've probably been burned by this. I expect to see lots of lawsuits. In fact, I hear that a lot of players have actually just turned around and sued the Alliance and Dundon and all those guys for some other stuff. And who knows what's going to happen there. But here's the deal. Since the Alliance has folded, we have seen there's a couple of new rules in the NFL that were piloted in the Alliance this year. They're apparently, I guess they're bringing in that Sky Judge idea, which is something that the Alliance piloted. Also, we have seen as we record this, the last number that I was able to find, 30 players from the AAF have been signed to an NFL roster. Now, will they stick come the 53-man roster cut down? I don't know. Some of them probably will. Some probably will. Some might not. But the whole idea of the alliance was not to get these guys back into the NFL, but to give them another shot.
Yeah.
And so what I'm here to say is the alliance it worked. The idea of the alliance worked. And I for one am incredibly sad to see it go. I agree with you, Ren. You said on this show well over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now, that the NFL needs a developmental league, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. And this was that. You had to give it time. Look, here's the deal. Even if Dundon had got his way, hey, send us your players, send us your people, get these guys coming in, that didn't affect this year. The NFL wasn't going to send them players this year.
Yeah.
Sure as hell weren't going to send them next year. You got to wait till the CBA comes back up again, that'd be after the Alliance season next year. So it'd be year 3 before they ever could even do that. So, I don't know what Dundon was trying to play and why he tried to force it and make it happen right now, outside of the idea that he really didn't want to do football. The only thing I can think is he really wanted that technology, and he went and paid for it. And, if he didn't see a long-term commitment by everybody right now, then, all right, screw it, I'm done, I'm out. And it was that kind of thing. So, and here's
I think it's 2 reasons. I think one, he really wanted a commitment from the NFL for the XFL came around.
Okay.
And 2, and which seems to be the bigger priority, listening to your story, is now that he owns that technology.
Yep.
And it's a gambling real-time moneymaker app.
Yeah.
And now he owns it.
And as you said, Ren, it wasn't great. It had a lot of bugs left in it. But, the way you work that stuff out is you use it and you work it out. So, anyway, so long to the Alliance of American Football. I think specifically Tom Alexander, who's been on this show, Al Lunsford, who was a guy who worked there for the Apollos, and really all the people that worked in the AAF. They thought they were going to be employed for 3 years, and man, now they aren't. So, it's the AAF worked, I think, to develop so many different people outside of just the players. The beat reporters, the officials, league officials, different guys like that. Like, it gave them experience that they, would not have otherwise had. And I think football is better when we have something like this happening, even if it's not a huge ratings boost, even if it's not a huge moneymaker. That is that. So, all right. So, Ren, that's the AAF. So long, Showtime with the Apollos. We're back to just the Pewtercast, talking Buccaneers football.
Have you changed the Twitter handle?
I did. Yeah. I put it all back to just Pewtercast stuff. It's time to say bye to all of those logos. All right, Ren. Well, that's really going to be our show. We got just one more thing to take care of. We had a new iTunes review come in here over this last couple of weeks, but we also got an email. So I want to read this email real quick before we get to the iTunes review. Our buddy Chris, who sends in a lot of emails, sent this in actually a couple of weeks ago. So let's get to it right now. Here's what he says. He says, "What's up, Pewter guys? Hopefully you and Ren are enjoying your spring, or is it summer in Florida now?" It's still spring in Florida. He says, "Can it just be draft night already? I'm getting burned out on Twitter about who the Bucs should and shouldn't draft. With that being said, I was thinking about Ren and his need for the Bucs to draft an interior defensive lineman in round 1. Ren, you may have taken care of this entire email earlier in this episode. He says, your argument was looking into 2020, which is a fine argument. So here's what I propose and want to know what you guys think. I truly don't think the Bucs are going to pick at 5. Neither do I. But if they do, because they couldn't find a trade partner or somebody doesn't want to give up the capital that the Bucs are seeking, Bosa, Allen, and Quinnen Williams are all off the board. That is what you said earlier tonight, Ren.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still going to take the second best defensive tackle or third best edge rusher at 5 instead of taking the best linebacker, meaning White, at 5?
Yes, because something I sort of touched on it. The defensive line is the far superior. It might possibly be the best defensive line draft in the history of the draft.
Wow.
It might be. And of the two, interior defensive line and edge, the interior defensive line is the deeper part. Okay. So yes, and like I talked about, we're White. Like, some people think White's not even the best linebacker this year, and he wouldn't be the best linebacker. He would push him even down if he was in last year's draft. So you're talking like, I don't want to say generational players, but you're talking about these guys are going to make Pro Bowls. Bosa's going to make Pro Bowls. Josh Allen, I'm a little kind of like, because he's sort of like a one-year wonder.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone who's watched his tape, no one's backed off of it. So he's probably going to make some Pro Bowls. Quentin Williams is definitely going to make some Pro Bowls.
Right.
Ed Oliver is definitely going to make some Pro Bowls. Is Devin White going to make some Pro Bowls? In a 3-4, maybe, probably. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But again, positional value, man. I don't think it's fair I don't think it's a good idea to say, well, he's the best linebacker in this year's draft. Well, this year's draft linebackers fucking suck. There's 2.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
And
everyone else is like,
Devin, right?
Everyone else is like a run stuffer or a money backer.
Right.
It's that it's a linebacker in space or I play downhill. There's 2 3-down linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2. And that's terrible for a draft. It's terrible. So just because you're the best of the suckiest, you have to start looking at grades. Like, go back, say, 5 years and grade out all the first-round linebackers, and show me where White stacks up on that. If he's at the top of the list, I'll listen to your argument. If he's like 4th, 5th, 6th, then what are you talking about?
Fair enough. He says he gives a couple of different situations, but I won't run into all of those.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. So Chris, thank you so much for that. You can find Chris is out there. He can tell you what the rest of his stuff is. We've talked enough about this tonight. That's why I want to move on from that. All right, let's hear iTunes review. We did actually have another review come into us from Podbean, which actually kind of came in the form of a comment. But he says, "Great job, guys! Amazing Bucs fans who have a passion for talking about our favorite team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers." So, thank you to whomever left that on our Podbean. Podbean, by the way, is our second most listened to platform here at the Pewtercast. All right, Ren, we got a real fun iTunes review to get to. This is a 5-star review. And I'm sorry, it's not a 5-star review. This is a 4-star review. And let's see here. This one comes to us. You're never going to guess who sent us this one. Warren Sapp.
No, don't do that.
No. He did list his name as Da QB Killer.
Was it Da?
Da QB Killer. So
it could be Warren Sapp.
It could be Warren Sapp.
Until you listen to the comment, then there's no way it can be Warren Sapp or Sapp.
And the title of it is meh. 4 stars, though. It says this. If you can get over the fact that Brent knows very little about football in general and that Ren is a narcissist, this is a halfway decent podcast. Bucks related and very funny. They put out lots of content and are on top of the latest things, all Bucks. Just don't expect any newsworthy scoops that you couldn't find on any random Bucks fan Twitter page. 3 stars for being a good listen to, and 1 star for coverage of the team. There's your 4 stars. That's it.
I'm sorry. I was looking at myself in this little picture box down below.
Yeah? Yeah, just watch it.
Yeah, so now you know why it's not from Warren Sapp, because if Warren Sapp calls anybody else a narcissist, it's like, come on, dude. It's like, dude, hypocrite. You the pot or the kettle. Like, pick your.
See, that's why I really like the idea that this is Warren Sapp. The idea of Warren Sapp calling someone else a narcissist.
That he's so clueless.
Oh, it's fun.
So unself-aware, or how do you say that? Self-unaware?
Yeah, I think it'd be unself-aware. Non-self-aware. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's fair. At least, my part, I guess. I guess I really have to look up the definition of narcissist. Because the only thing I really know is it's from, isn't it from a Greek god like Narcissus?
Yeah.
And he just sort of stares in the mirror all the time.
I think it's a pool of water actually, but yeah, effectively a mirror. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah.
I rarely look in the mirror, but it's more of a, I think the sort of the definition is morphed, and I'm sure it's probably like second, third, fourth, meaning in the dictionary, that it's sort of moved on to that, I don't know, like your poo don't stink, or you really like yourself, or you like to hear yourself talk, or all those things. All those things are true.
Apply. Yeah.
All of those,
I'm not
all of those
to
apply
the definition of narcissist. Yes.
So, yeah. Thanks, a QB killer.
I'm just gonna call him Duh from now on. Yeah, I mean, hey, he nailed it. I don't know crap about football at all. It's I just know how to turn on a microphone, and Ren, that's why I brought you into the show, so you could, talk about stuff, because I have nothing else going on. But you know what? Actually, here's what I really want to focus in on, and this is the thing, guys. This is, if I wanted to set out to make a podcast that was super football knowledgeable and heavy, well, we had that. We had that with What the Buck. We had that with Buck's Brief at the time, which had just gone off the air. I was looking to make something different, and what I'm more concerned about more than anything else is that we are creating good content that you guys like to listen to. That basically we're creating a show, Ren, that you and I would want to listen to.
I can't believe you're defending our show to this guy.
I'm saying it to everybody, because he says, it's not defending it to him, because what he says is, this is a good show to listen to. It's funny, and it's Bucks related. I find,
and you do know about football, so
I do know about football. It's yes. And here's the thing. He also says, don't expect newsworthy scoops you couldn't find on any random's Bucks page. Look, Bryn, you and I get Bucks news just like everybody else out there who's not in the building gets Bucks news. There's no secret about that. I'm not sure what you were wanting out of that specific thing, because we're not credentialed media with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, except for a couple of days out of the year. So
yeah, that was the most bedoy, like
Right. So,
really, we don't get breaking news? You mean the Bucks front office and agents of the players don't contact us to tell us that breaking things that are happening?
What, you don't have Jason Light's phone number in your phone there, Ren? You don't get a once-a-year sit-down with Joel Glazer?
I did not. Yeah.
So, but hey, listen, 4-star rating. Thank you to QB Killa and everybody else who's left us a review. If you guys would like to leave us a review, we always prefer the 5-star kind, but leave us a review. We'll read it on an upcoming episode here of the Pewtercast. Just go over to iTunes, even if it's not your preferred platform. Leave us a review, leave us a rating, and then go back to listening to us on whichever platform you like, although about 9/10 of you guys do listen to us on iTunes. It's not quite that much. It's close. But anyway, Ren, that's going to do it for the show, man. That's going to wrap us up. We are done here. We've got other stuff we'll be coming out with here as things churn around the Buccaneers. Things are going to start getting a little more frequent here, I think, the closer we get to the draft. So stay with us. This is our off season. We downshift. In the season, we're going 4 episodes a week. In the off season, it's one every couple of weeks. Sometimes one every 3. Sometimes one every week. Sometimes even a little bit more. You never know. So with that, Ren, I'll give you a chance for any final thoughts on tonight's episode. And when you're done with that, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you on the internet?
If you could follow what I was saying, like in the first 20 minutes of the podcast, kudos to you. Hopefully I summed it up and brought it back around to a sort of not as a salad bowl of a take. But we tease, I was off. We've been off for like 3 weeks. So I haven't talked football with anybody. I've typed it a lot on Twitter.
Yes, you have.
But I haven't actually like spoke it out loud. Had to organize my thoughts and actually verbalize my argument.
You didn't get a chance to go type. No, delete, type, delete. There you go. That's good.
That's good. The only reason I delete is because I've misspelled something.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway,
you are a narcissist, Ren.
After that, even more boring close by me. You can find me on the internet, on Twitter is the best way to find me, at Rendax, RENC. I couldn't even remember that. How many times have I done that closing? You can find me on the internet on, where am I? I'm on Twitter, yeah. At Rendax, REN_DAXT. I am always down to talk Buccaneers football.
And if you guys want to get in touch with me, you can find me at Brent Allen Live on Twitter and on Instagram. And you can find the show at the Pewtercast on Twitter and on Facebook.com. You can also join us at YouTube.com/Pewtercast. If you want to find out how you can support the show, you can hit us up at Patreon.com. Join the growing community over there as well, supporting the show and all the fun stuff that we have coming out here. It is directly through the contributions of our patrons this past year that we were able to do things like add the new YouTube channel that we did this past year, Ren, and get that off the ground. So thank you to those of you guys who have been supporting us over there. And with that, Ren, I think that's going to close out the show. So we'll end this show as always. Go Bucks!